Good evening. Hopefully everybody can hear this. This is going to be a little different than I would normally do. We're going to start off with giving you the best store setup you could ever imagine, where you don't have to buy anything at all. You don't have to buy anything, and you can have a store making a lot of money on eBay doing nothing. We'll start off with that. We're going to give you an example of a real store that I see on eBay. And not just one. I've now been pointed out a couple other ones that are basically the same setup. Basically, all you got to do is find some photos on eBay from other sellers who don't have copyrights on them, which would be the majority of every single person on eBay is not going to have copyrights on any of their photos. All you got to do is make a copy of that. You take that image that you got, you crop it down to 4x6, and you send it off to Walmart to have a copy printed so you can take a photo of that. And those are going to be your items. You don't have to buy anything. And through eBay's standards and eBay's policy, that's perfectly fine for somebody to have 14,000 listings that don't belong to them. This is perfectly fine with eBay's policy. Again, this is perfectly fine with eBay's policy. Now, again, I've spent hours dealing with something with this as well, too. And to come to find out that eBay can use your photos, or anybody else can use your photos all they want on eBay. Unless you're a corporation or somebody who has a lot of money to copyright, apparently, every single image in your store. So basically, it's perfectly fine, even though eBay's policy says you can't do that, to just start copying images, make prints of them, and sell those prints on eBay. Whether it's a postcard image, whether it's a photo image, whether it's anything. And it doesn't matter if the image may be belonging to somebody else. Let's say I wanted to take a photo of myself and put that up for sale. Somebody else has full rights to take my personal image, mass produce it on eBay, even though there's probably copyrights, and eBay is not going to shut that person down, nor are they going to take that listing down at all. Now, again, I'm going to back this up. These are straight letters from eBay that I supplied. I personally put in some Veros for people who are taking images and then selling expensive images that I have, and then literally selling a copy of them in their store, telling people to buy their copy because it's much cheaper than buying the original. Now, the ones in question that I'm specifically talking about, I'm not going to show in here, but it is a one-of-a-kind image I acquired from a family member at an estate. One-of-a-kind. Not only that, my image has ink on it. There's damage to the facing of most of the postcards. They've been used. And I know who's in the card. I know the name, the family, the city, the state. I know all the information because I got it straight from the family and was given permission to use those images. Those folks are since deceased. The image taker was not, but I do have permission to do that. So to see that same image, which is a one-of-a-kind with smear marks and things on it from, my exact copy, caused me to have a little bit of an issue with that, because basically now I am competing with my own image to sell my item. His is much cheaper, basically. eBay literally states, please note that eBay's policy regarding the actual images used in the listings, it does not cover the product being sold or anything like that. So basically this says that they don't cover images. They won't take down an image. Hang on just a second. Let me get to the right page here. The picture of the poster. There's something. Yeah, it doesn't cover the product, so I can't go after him for the product. Hang on, I got the wrong paper here. Is it this one here? Yeah, here it is. We do not take action reports where images and or text are copied from one eBay listing and used in another as described in eBay's user agreement. If you open up the user agreement, it's in section 9, paragraphs 1 and 2. This is referred to me. I'm not going to try and give you any names, but this is literally printed off. So you can see it's a legitimate letter from eBay. Now, I asked Dom, he's in the channel, Primetime Treasure. He knows this issue is going on. He didn't know that was with eBay policy. Every single person that I've asked who's been on eBay for years, and I asked a lot of people all day long, haven't a clue that that's the case. Haven't a single solitary clue. So for the majority of everybody who's been on eBay for lengths of time to not know that eBay can do whatever they want with your images is kind of crazy. It's in there, and I read the policy, and it doesn't technically state that they allow anybody other than eBay to use your image. So, again, I've had a legal expert look at this, and they come up with the same conclusion that I do, that it doesn't really say that in the user agreement for that. It says eBay entities and things like that can do what they want with your images. Okay, fine. It does say in there, though, that you can't use someone else's images at all, nor can you use their text. I have the Vero page opened up here as well. That's listed on the Vero section. As we all know, if I used the word Velcro in a photo from a Velcro item that's official, I will probably have that one done and pulled down and a Vero on it. Now, if it's my listing, it's fine. Even if it's a trademark or something. I don't have copyright on some things. I own some trademarks. So we're publishers. We publish things as well, as you know. So it's a little frustrating when 14,000 items in a store are basically someone else's images. None of it says the majority of this seller's account profits are coming from images that they don't own. eBay says they don't worry about images, even though it says otherwise on the Vero page. eBay also says that you can't use someone else's images without having permission to use those images. Again, he doesn't have any proof that he has permission to use those. My image was up before his, very obviously, and I can prove that it's a one-of-a-kind because there's ink on it. It's not like something that you can just fake and fudge when there's another copy of that same thing over there. Of course, they're not going to do anything about it. Then they try to push it off to the fact that it's going to be an issue over the item he's selling, which, again, they don't touch items that are being sold in that aspect. Now, the other thing which is crazy is, let's see here. Hang on. I got so many of these, I've had to say the exact same story 5 times to 5 different people at eBay. Hours of my time and day have went into this. Reporting numbers, filling out Vero forms, an hour's worth of time on the phone, including somebody who told me I didn't have to do all this. They would report the account and it would be fixed. Of course, wasn't true. The next person told me Vero takes care of that. That wasn't true. Again, these are all recorded. In fact, the person who told me that Vero takes it cut me off in mid-sentence just to transfer me to somebody else so they didn't have to deal with me. So, this is the type of response you're going to get from eBay. They don't care. Now, next question I got, well, why don't you just put watermarks on your images so when no one can steal them? In March of 2018, eBay forced every single person who had a watermark on their images to remove them. So I remember this, people had to dash and spend days and days uploading new images without watermarks. Why did they do that? Because of their product catalog. So they can use your image to sell or do whatever they want with those images that you took. So basically at this point, I'm competing against myself for the exact same basic item, the basic image, for somebody selling it for $140 less than mine, using my image to sell it. And again, this person's majority of all the stuff on his account are all basically a copy, and not even that. And on top of it, this other person is listing the item as in a different category than it should be. He's not listing it as what it is, and he's also listing them as used to further muddy the water. He's also using keywords in the title that make many people think that it's something that it's not. And his feedback shows it because he's got 50 negatives and neutrals combined, all complaining about those same ripped-off copies, including some that are saying he doesn't have the copyrights for those images, others saying he's just taking photos from a screen and making cheap copies of them. Again, this has all been pointed out to eBay. On top of that, this was pointed out to me by a Patreon of mine who had his images stolen too. He as well has reported this. I have now contacted a third person who has his images as well in this same person's account. Again, eBay doesn't care. They are fine with people copying our personal stuff as long as we're not rich in corporate America. Now, again, I can say this after hours contacting and having responses from eBay in writing that says they will not do a thing about people stealing them because eBay has permission, not this guy, but eBay has permission to use them in any way they feel fit. To the full max extent of the law, they're going to use our images. All they can is what it literally says on Section 9, Paragraph 1 and 2 of the user agreement. Now, I've looked over that. I would not equate that that section at all meaning what they say it means, because in that same section it says you have to use your own images and not to use other people's images or text. But then again, we get into the dilemma. So whether it's a policy or not, it's a policy that eBay is openly stating they will not enforce at all. On top of that, in that same section, it states that even if there are sharing pictures like they say is allowed, you can only share them specifically to use to sell something on eBay. For a person to pull them off eBay and send them to Walmart and Walgreens, which is where this person is printing these poorly cheap copies, that has pulled the image off the site. So again, now it's breaking another eBay rule. Again, eBay is not going to do anything. eBay isn't even going to ask that person to produce proof that those images are in his possession, at least, to take a photo. So that basically means you're free and clear. Again, from what I read from this, you can read it yourself. Patrons, you'll get to see a lot of this stuff. Tomorrow I'm updating and changing and adding this stuff into the video that I already have uploaded. I'm going to delete it, re-upload it, and you're going to get to hear the whole story so you can see. If, again, I've pushed a lot of people into selling postcards, you'll really want to look at some of these stores I'll show you in that video to see if your postcard images are in there as well. There is not a single thing that you can do about it, apparently. There are even other things that say you can't pull images off of Google or a web search and use them on eBay. Again, these images of mine show up in a Google search, so they could have got them from there as well. Of course, again, they're not going to do anything about that as well either. So the only copyright protections you have for your own personal images on your own personal things are only if you go ahead and spend a couple grand to have each and every one of those copyrighted. Again, watermarks are not allowed on eBay. In 2018, in March, when they activated, I think it was March 1st, when they said that was going to happen, the deadline, if you didn't pull them off, they weren't going to pull your listings, but they weren't going to show up in search results. Again, this is all so they can have access to your content to use it to give to other people to use so they can list items easier. It's a service. They're using your photos as a benefit to help other people that are going to compete against you. That's a big issue in my book, and there's not much that it looks like anybody can do it. But again, there isn't a single person I talked to that knew that was okay. Because again, the user agreement and rules in many places, including on that same page, say you can't do that. You can't use someone else's images. But again, eBay is telling me in writing on a printed email through eBay that I've printed up, saved as well, that says they're not going to go after. They don't do anything for people using your images from your thing. Yeah, now my items are not in eBay's product catalog. These are items that are not in the catalog. The only recourse I could have is ask this gentleman to take down items that he's making money on. Now this comes into play now when he has sold some of those items and said made $50 off of selling some of the items, which has deprived me of the $50 because had he not had that on there, the only way to get that image would be to either steal it from me or to buy my item. So eBay is openly allowing, and I have to say this is openly. I can't see this as slander. I've talked to some legal aspects just to see where I stand on this. We do have a lawyer we use, just FYI. I do a lot of stuff, so occasionally we have to have contracts looked over and things like that. So, and again, I have accountants and all that stuff. So again, I've got in writing where they're telling me, regardless of the fact that this guy has my image, and it's no doubt because again, it's a one of a kind. I can prove where it came from. I can prove the designation. I can prove who's even in the photo. Again, so that's where this is really bad in my opinion. I can't say they snuck it in there, but the terms used in the section they are describing in the user agreement don't really say that it's able for other person to just yank your photo regardless of where it's at. Product manual or product catalog may be one thing. This is abuse. Again, this is allowing anybody out there to create a business based on other people's images without having any product. This guy doesn't really need product. The majority of all of his sales, again, I counted through feedback versus how many were regular items. Nothing seems to be blocked, so it all is showing up. So again, it's like 70% of his business is coming from these ripped off images from what I can see. There's other stores. He's not the only one, unfortunately. It was somewhat controlled prior to eBay saying, let's just do a product catalog and screw the people with watermarks. Let them, who cares if they got to spend days on end getting new photos for every single one. A lot of people don't save their images after they've been up for 2 or 3 years. You know, and a lot of people, let's just say probably 95% of everybody on here doesn't even think about copywriting every single thing they sell. Even if you're doing a book, you suppose that you have some sort of, I guess, rights to something that you have, that you took. So basically, I got to pay eBay for them to be able to profit from stuff, my labor, is basically what that's saying. And that's perfectly fine with the user agreement by their interpretation of it. Again, I've reached out to a legal expert, and it's a little iffy on how you would determine that aspect of it. Again, they're saying verified rights owners can do whatever, have rights to the images, but that just means they're not going to accept anything other than a copyright or a trademark or something to verify that it's even yours, even if they can see without a doubt that let's say it's a picture of me I am selling. Somebody else can sell a picture of me all they want, which is really sad that you can't even own your own self-image on eBay. Again, they don't take down any photos from anybody else using your photos from your thing, unless my image is copyrighted and all that kind of stuff. How many people have their image copyrighted? I bet you there isn't a single person in here in any way, shape, or form that has their selves copyrighted or any images in there. Now, again, if I put the word Velcro in a title, it would be shut down in a matter of minutes. I read over the Vero page. I have it literally open in front of me. I've got several laptops. I did finally move everything around, so broadcast laptop is somewhere else. But I'm literally looking at it, and image and text is literally in here in the Vero page for what can't be used. Using someone else's image or description without permission could violate copyright laws. If you use text or an image that was created by someone else, be sure that you have permission to use the text or image in the first place. Again, this is from the Vero page. So unless you're a big, huge corporation, you have no rights whatsoever to your own products. And again, this could go for someone seeing you make a craft product that you just didn't happen to have copyrighted. So let's say you want to do some Christmas ornament or something, and you design something. Somebody else can come in there, use your actual photograph, and make their own item just like that. Or, they could see what happens and pretend to sell it, and not even have the item for all we know. That happens as well. But the whole basics for this is you don't have any rights to your own photos that you spent the time to take. You spent the time to edit. You spent the time to clear up, edit, change, flip, whatever you're doing. None of those are yours. Not a single one of those images are yours. Even if it's something you created or made, they can use it. They can do what they want with it. And even if somebody does violate your rights, you have to spend the money to get a copyright, a trademark, or something else to have eBay do anything about it. Now, DCMA, the other takedown notices you can have, I still don't have an answer. They actually avoided answering that question twice now, so they're not giving me an answer to whether if I put this up on my personal website, I can then go ahead and claim a takedown notice for this. Again, then that would mean you'd have to type up a takedown notice for every single image one at a time. I've done a few of those over some of my videos that I've found in certain places. So I know how that process works. It's a long, drawn-out process, and they don't technically even have to do it under certain circumstances. You'd have to go before a court and things like that. Another option, like my lawyer was telling me that, hang on a second, the quality looks like it just jumped on me here. Another option that I was told is you can, maybe press charges in the city this gentleman lives in. But, how often I'm not sure if it's a guy or a girl. It doesn't really matter. It's just the fact that the odds of him having a one-of-a-kind photo, not just that, but many of my images, as well as many of another one. These rare, expensive postcards that just never show up. I've never run into a rare postcard and had another member have one online at that specific time. We're talking stuff that's hundreds of dollars. One of the images in question is almost $300 postcard. And it's one that would sell at the right point. So the point of it is, I can just go through sold listings if I want a business without doing anything and just start copying photos of people who don't have the money to get a copyright on them, and then have a copy printed at Walmart. Take a photo, take those copies home, and take a photo of that copy. So technically, the listing itself is showing exactly what you're going to get. It's not showing the postcard. It's showing the photo that was ripped off from a postcard or an image or a photo or anything like that. So again, this person, Dom's read it. I'm not going to call any names, but the basic gist on this is that's a business model that's fine with eBay. It's a business model. It literally is. It's something that they're not going to do a thing about. there are some recourses, but nothing that's going to be cheap or not going to cost the buyer, the seller like me, thousands of dollars to protect any sort of rights. Again, you don't have any rights on eBay with those at all. So, and that's just kind of a shocker because, again, I've read that, and I read it twice before I sent it off to some legal personnel. I read it twice, and I still can't anywhere in there specifically get an explanation of it. And I've actually demanded a explanation breakdown on where in there does it say that another seller is allowed to directly take the photo from my page as opposed to anywhere else. Again, these aren't things that show up in the catalog. These are one-of-a-kind oddballs. It's not in there. I looked. So again, that's where you're left with no rights on your own content on eBay. I know Amazon has rules and stuff, but if I had a complaint and could prove something, I've had something taken down on Amazon from some other seller before, so I know it's possible. It's not on eBay, but it is on Amazon. Just FYI. I'm going to go over here. Yeah, I'm going to cut to Annie's got when your photo of the item is copyrighted by default unless you explicitly put it. That doesn't matter to eBay. That's again, I've got it right here. eBay will not take down another photo at all. I would have to get paperwork that states without a shadow of a doubt that I own that. A copyright notice is what eBay is literally saying. Again, I've got a lot of pages here, so... these reports only, let's see here. Keep in mind, due to the legal nature of these reports, only verified rights owners are able to report their own items for infringement. I can't report my own items unless I'm verified rights owner. And how can you get a verified rights owner? You got to have a copyright or a trademark. It's the only way I see on eBay anywhere. So me having a copyright, again, I know what Annie's stating there because that's my philosophy. That's what I assumed was the case, that the minute I take that photo, it is mine until I die, and so many years out, I think it's, 79 years after my death. Or I sign the rights away. That image is mine. There was just a big lawsuit about this with a museum of art that people were using their images and doing copies of, and they claim the right to own the photograph. And if I'm not mistaken, they did win that right. Again, I don't have money that I want to waste on tens of thousands of dollars trying to fight eBay over them allowing people to violate my copyright laws, but I took those images. I'm going to use those images in a book. Of course, they're not in it yet, so they're just going to say, hey, well, it's not in the book now, so we can do what we want with it. That's not the way the laws are supposed to work from what I understand. Yeah, let me. I know I might have missed some, but this has been hours and hours for the last. This started like 3 days ago, I want to say, with the first comment. I was literally doing something on eBay, and a Patreon emailed me through eBay, and I generally don't answer emails from anybody on eBay unless it's like a patron or something. And that was the case. And sure enough, he says, go look at this. And he's been, researching and finding his images in there and a bunch of other stuff. And then I found some well-known celebrities' images in there, and I've already since contacted the estates of the celebrities and reported those item numbers. So even if he takes them down, it's still going to be verified that he's doing it because they're still tied to eBay system. I even told eBay that, and still nothing. So it doesn't seem like they care. So again, if you want a business model where you don't have to invest anything, just go ahead and start stealing people's images on eBay and using them for your own listings and make copies of those images, because eBay openly says they don't take them down unless there's a copyright notice, and you can prove through a verified user or verified rights owner. Again, the only way I see to be a verified rights owner is to spend thousands of dollars on each and every one of your items to do that. And now the DCMA, again, there's some other issues with that. eBay may come back to the point and say, well, you can't prove it was pulled from your page versus your listings and all these other things. So knowing how they've skewed how that statement on the user agreement in section 9 paragraph 1 and 2 does, I wouldn't doubt that they would just do the same thing just to protect themselves. Again, this is all so they can use your images for however they want in a product catalog. Again, this is why the item specifics are all being done like this too, so they can improve your catalog. This is why we get calls sometimes every day telling us you've got recommended item specifics that you should fill out, because it's going to help you. Now, another thing, I stopped doing any of eBay's surveys. I'm not going to do any more of their, I can't think what the program's called right now, but I get emails and I can do these surveys and they offer stuff. Somebody else told me what the last survey was. They want to know now your price, your cost on your items, which again, I would never give eBay those. And this goes back into some other issues with eBay and things like that. So you got to be careful. Like, I've got some people complaining and saying that eBay can ding you if you decline and stuff offers and stuff, or you don't counter. Well, that comes into play into some legality, because there's laws, even in California, some very strict ones, that say you can't sell your item for less than it's worth, because it's unfair competition. So there are laws. So if they're forcing you by going to ding you because you're not accepting or doing something, then they would possibly be violating a law, because it's not a thing to force somebody to sell it for less than you pay for it. If you put the price in there, then they can come back in and say, hey, well, that's your price. I can tell you should sell it at this price. Anybody who's ever asked to if it's okay to put your cost of the item into eBay, you better darn well say no, because that could be the next step for them to come and say, hey, you need to sell the item if it's within this range of the cost of the item. Again, I'm not throwing something wildly out there. It's now making more sense that if that is what they could possibly want to do, that would give them some leeway with it. Again, I don't want this to be a complaint about eBay, but this is just wrong. This is totally wrong. If I look at the copyright laws and I take a photo, it's my photo. But eBay doesn't count that as my photo. Again, I don't know what the specific reason and how they worry about it, but this all changed in 2018 of March 1st, when they stopped letting people put watermarks to protect your images. Watermarks protected and pretty much stopped probably 90% of the theft. Of course, you can go ahead and digitally alter it and get rid of watermarks. I can do that just as easy as anybody else. It's not a big thing, but it does stop the majority of those people, like the person involved with taking photos from me, taking them from another patron, and taking them from a third person, which I've now confirmed as well. So it's really iffy how this can be allowed, knowing they won't even look at his account to see that the fact, even with the complaints, again, he's got, I'm not going to call it a feedback number, but to have 50 negatives and neutrals combined, all about the same basic items, is pretty rough in my book. I don't have any negatives. I've got a neutral for something that is not my fault. But again, other than that, that is basically the issue, that this is a rights issue, and you have none on eBay for your own content. If somebody wants to literally directly copy the entire textual statement in your listing, they're fine to do that too, because again, eBay's not going to do anything with it. Again, these are emails from eBay, and again, each one is from a different person. Every one of these that I got here is from a totally different person. So I've had to talk to 5 different people on the phone. I had to spend a lot of time on the first phone call, again, for the person to give me totally bad information. Totally whatever he reported apparently didn't do anything, because that's not what you do. So again, so now the staff member at eBay doesn't have a clue on even what to do. The next person, again, and this is supposedly someone from safety and stuff, who cut me off in mid-sentence and was fairly rude to me, sent me to somebody else and said the Vero department is what handled. Well, apparently the Vero department openly says they don't do that. They don't take care of people's photos. They don't care. Does not their concern, because I don't have a $2,000 copyright in every one of my images. Even if I published them, technically they should be covered, and I would have to come back and improve it. I'd have to supply the book and then go through a whole bunch of stuff probably just to prove that picture, even though it's in the book, doesn't mean that I didn't get that picture from somebody else and have rights just to use that picture for the book. So again, it puts the seller in this dilemma that eBay has a policy that you can't do that, but eBay has another policy that says they won't do anything about that, even if they do it. Again, you're not supposed to use somebody else's images. So this all steers the whole rights aspect to the fact that corporate America, businesses, big businesses, again, I'm a fairly decent sized seller, and so are some of the folks that I talked to ask if they knew this. Nobody knew it, as I said. So that's very troublesome in my book. It used to be, again, I've been on eBay for a very long time, if somebody was caught doing that, they would shut them down. In 2017, I literally know, I've got notes here. I looked this all up. I even took notes on when we got the notice. In September of 2017 is when they sent a notice out about no watermarks anymore, which was a staple on eBay. eBay even used to tell you how to do it. There was pages you can find on eBay how to put a watermark in. But again, last CEO decided that he wanted to just basically steal our images and do whatever he wanted with them, so they threw that into the user agreement, taking away our rights to our own images, our own time, and are now allowing others to use our time and effort and image to compete with us. That's what it breaks down to. There's no stopgap. There's no policing of this because, again, eBay literally says right here they do not take photos down. You are allowed to do that, even though it says you're not. Again, they're contradictory statements. One page says you can't use anybody else's photos or text. The other column in the same user agreement says that that it's enforced, but then they say no, it's not. So they're talking out of the side of their mouth. They're double talking. They're saying one thing here, one thing over there. Again, it's in my book, it's deceptive on eBay's part. Again, they can say what they want. This is my opinion based on letters printed off from eBay. So if they want to delete these, they can, but I've got copies in many places. I'm not very trusting in eBay with the whole issue with, again, them attacking e-commerce bites. I've had articles and stuff in there at the same time, and I was attacked at the same time. At this point, I don't really care, to discuss that again. But just so you know, I am in no love of eBay, no matter what the case, those running it. The site, the platform itself is the bomb for selling stuff, though, regardless of what you think. It's management issues. This is probably one of the biggest thefts of someone's intellectual property that's openly allowed is your photographs, your time. You have time into those photos. If I pay somebody to take those photos, I own those photos. And I do pay people to take photos and scan stuff. So I am paying somebody to take photos for eBay to own those photos. That's there's no other way around it. Again, legal-wise, that is basics on what is going on. It's in the user agreement, and I agreed to it, and so did every other person selling on here. Is there a big choice? Was there a big choice in 2017 for competition for most of those items? No, there wasn't. So as I can't say that they are a monopoly, again, because there is no blocking factor for somebody else to get into the field. It would be very hard, but their money it would take. But again, so you had no choice. This has been the way. And again, it doesn't word for word say it's openly allowed for other resellers to just take your picture regardless of it not being in the product catalog. So you take that how you want. You feel about that how you want, but I know how I feel about that in how drastic. And again, Dom, Primetime Treasure Hunter, excellent friend of the channel, great guy. He's had images. He's had a Vero for something, and unfortunately, it's somebody that I've actually know, Michael Lisner, who did Cry for Dawn and stuff like that. Again, Dom's case, I don't think that was a legit takedown in the first place, at all. And again, he didn't copy anything. He was selling an original drawing by somebody else who wasn't this guy of his character. You can do some of that depending on it as fan art and things like that. That's one of those touchy subjects. Again, eBay doesn't care about anybody else. If I bring up another seller that's having the exact same issue with the same seller, they don't care about that information. They don't listen to it. They just went on with another topic instead of addressing that issue. So again, it leaves us all with no rights to the images that I worked for, photographed, or paid for. Again, I paid for people to do this. I'm paying for eBay. I think if eBay is going to do that, they should cut it down to 0 listing fees for everything, no store fees, or start paying us 20 cents an image for every image that they decide to use. I know it's never going to happen, but I'm just throwing out hypotheticals, what would be fair, and then to go back for the years that they've been doing this to supplement the sellers that have had their images wrongfully used by other sellers. Again, I'm competing against my own image. I'm competing against an image that I took that's being allowed to be used by somebody else. This isn't a stock-looking image. This is a cropped image. My image is much better quality, of course, because he's using a copy that was printed at Walmart and Walgreens from a screen grab. So I'm seriously troubled by this, again, because no one knows about this. Dom, I consider a very, very extremely knowledgeable seller, as well as many of the other people that I talked to, and they did not know that. I'm very studious on this stuff, and so is Dom. So are many of the other people that I talk to. Again, Dom knows this conversation. I've been chatting back and forth with Dom today about this as well as another day. So, again, take it how you want. I think everybody should be upset, should be bothered by this. Again, in my book, because they've again, even looking at the writing and reading this thing over twice, and even sending it to a legal guy, he still didn't read it the exact same way they're saying. Again, they can interpret this in different directions, just like anything. I've said this for probably 6 or 7 months, maybe even longer than that, a year. Most of the rules and guidelines have been very simplified so that the specific information, they used to say like examples, things you can do this, you can do that, you can't do this, you can't do that. That's pretty much been simplified into like a few sentences that can be determined in different ways or read in different ways by depending on who reads it. So again, that's a huge sad is the word. Dom said that first, and I would agree that it's just extremely sad that I should have to be the one to prove that my images, which were first up there, which again have one of a kind, and which again have specific damage to them that's showing up in a copy, it's fine. That wasn't even the issue to eBay, nor was it the issue that this guy's business is based on doing that. So again, if you want a free business, that's what you got to do. You just got to start taking other people's photos openly and using them. Again, this is I'm being sarcastic, but that's basically what eBay's saying is allowed, even though the policy says otherwise, even though the policy says you can't take them off site and all this other stuff to reproduce or to sell or to market the items. So again, none of the copyright laws that say the minute I take a photo or decide to do something with it mean anything. So let's say I take a photo before I post it on eBay, I post it somewhere else just to show somebody an image. Doesn't matter anyway, because again, I don't have a verified copyrights owner slip, basically a copyright for that, even though it's technically copyrighted the minute it's posted on my personal page, supposedly. Again, so anyway, let's pop up here, and again, I've just been racking my brain on this and looking over legal documents and things to see if there's any way to own my own stuff in these situations, or to at least to be able to reasonably protect me from having to compete against myself for items that somebody else is pricing hundreds of dollars cheaper than my own. I don't see a way, but Hot Flip Heidi, how are you doing? I see Duncan in the house. Always Queen Vix, Duncan. I'm happy to see him too. And Marty in the house too. Hopefully Marty's doing well. Yeah, no scary clowns. My Halloween is limited to the Halloween time frame, and that is it. I do have a couple other videos that will be coming up. I do have another Weebles video that's finished right now. My time with fourth quarter holiday coming up has been really limited, just FYI. But you will see some more content like that, just FYI. Hudson resales. If resellers are stealing images and disparaging other sellers, they should have their accounts closed and they should be banned from the platform. Nope, not going to happen. They're fine on the platform. Nothing's ever going to happen to them. They're not going to be shut down, not going to be removed unless I can prove it. Again, as I said, that doesn't mean a thing to eBay. And as their very vague user agreement on that states, who knows? Again, it states in one spot, yes, and then in another spot it states you can't use other people's images and photos. Again, those comments in there apparently only apply to corporate America, big business, and those with a lot of money. Anybody like me or anybody selling stuff, if you don't literally have a copyright on it, you're screwed. We're not talking about public domain stuff, as Annie brought up too. We're literally talking about somebody scrubbing your images, cropping them down, and then just uploading a whole file of images all at once to Walmart or Walgreens, whichever's cheaper. And if you know anything about that, you can get a print if you have many of them printed at once for like 6-8 cents or something like that, a reprint. So, it's nothing. It's nothing. Again, he apparently does print them and then come home and photo those prints. So technically, The image he's showing you is the exact item he's selling. That's his trick to it. And plus the titling that he's using in there, again, is intentionally deceptive. You can tell by the responses that he's leaving to people who complained about that. Your fault. You looked at it. You should have known. I said exactly what it is. Again, the wording he's using is not exactly what it is either. That's misleading, as is the category and the condition of it are intentionally not in the right category, not in the right condition. A lot of older folks buy this category, so it's ripping off older folks. And 50 of them complained about that. Again, nothing's going to happen. eBay's fine with it, you know. Even if they could come back and say something else, I got them here saying that they're not going to do anything about it in multiple emails and stuff. So first conversation, they don't have a clue on who to even report. First guy didn't even know that it's allowed to be done. Second person didn't know it was allowed to be done either, as did the person they transferred me to. So that's 3 people on the phone. None of them told me that they don't take down other images from other people unless you have a copy. Nobody told me that. So that's 3 verbally spoken to employees that didn't even refer that information to me at all. So again, this is just like when you call and get different answers from different people. 3 different people told me 3 different answers. Again, now I've got 3 more people on emails that are all telling me all kinds of other things that don't match what their own rules and guides say. Because again, and then I pointed out that this guy has violated 2 rules, taking the merchandise off of eBay property by sending it somewhere else, as well as the rule says they can't pull other people's images. But again, as I said, they're showing you right here that they're not going to go after. They don't take down other people's images or do anything unless you have money. So again, little guy gets screwed, and that's the end of it. So you're just going to have to learn to live with competing possibly with somebody selling an item using your exact image. So if you spend all the time to make sure your image is better than everybody else's image, so again, that's what they say, get the best image you can, so eBay can use it to give to somebody else, of course. That's the basic gist on it. But they want you to get the best image you can. And you do that, you spend all this extra time, you're worrying about it. We're the ones worrying about selling our items to make sure we get that best image. And it doesn't matter because eBay's just going to use it how they want, and they're not going to take down anybody else using your image without you spending thousands of dollars to have a copyright on those images. Again, there's a few ways around it, but at this point, either way you go is going to cost you some money. And I take this extremely seriously. So yeah, I've got our usual haters. I gotta laugh sometimes when they come on and do that. I didn't post out a push out today for this to the channel, so that's why they came in late today. But anyway, hey Richard. Yeah, it has been pretty busy. Things have been off the chain. That's why I didn't want to spend the time on this. But I think this is important because people, if you're selling vintage merchandise, which most people on this channel probably sell vintage merchandise if you're watching this, or at least want to get into it, you're probably running across vintage postcards, vintage 8x10s, vintage family photos and things like that, and you're spending your hard-earned time to take photos of those and make sure that they're good so that you stand out on eBay, and then somebody can just come in, take your photo, and make a copy, and then you're competing against your own quality of photo. That's insane. That is literally the definition of insane in my book, that would even be remotely possible. And then not only that they can build up almost 14,000 of these images. Now, I have contacted the district attorney's office in this person's hometown because that information is very obviously available online. So I do have enough information to at least see what I can do about that, and I have made the contact. If I get the yes from a few legal experts, I may still file an internet fraud case with the FBI because, again, this person would be stealing money from me if he's selling and making money off of images he took from there. Again, this is legally, I shouldn't say legally. eBay says it's not okay, but they don't enforce it. So basically, they're saying that they don't care if it happens. I don't know how else you can read that. If you're putting a rule out there, but then you're telling people when they complain about people violating that rule that you're not going to take care of that rule, you're openly condoning people that it's okay to do that, in my book. You know, don't steal anything, but I'm not going to do anything from you if you do steal something. That's what a store would have to say. You see those signs, stealers will be violated. Well, in there they'll say stealers are prohibited, but if you do steal, we're not going to report you or do anything. That's basically what this basically is telling me to my face, which is, I guess, insulting on top of the whole aspect of it. again, I don't want to rant and rave. I've got so many other things in my mind, and I've so much forgotten, or not forgotten, but pushed all the crap with the attacks and the eBay issues and all the managed payments and all that stuff and all the promoted listings BS that they had going on. I even forgot about having to remove watermarks and them losing millions, 38, I don't know, a couple 100 million photos and all the other things that constantly happen when they do something. And I'm even looking past it, sending out pig fetuses and maggots and stuff to people and aggravating this. Again, this is the people running the company before now. And again, we know the CEO stepped down at the same time. So it was obvious, and we know what he was said, and we can't prove anything. And I'm not trying to say he had anything to do with it, but my opinion is he did. But anyway, again, I'm allowed to voice an opinion. Opinions are allowed. You can't say that they're not. But so, you know, there's issues here. There are issues here, and I'm was willing to, you know, let things go and see how the new people are running the company. And I don't hear anything from the new CEO. I got somebody they rehired as the face person, and again, I don't. They're all PR people to me. I don't care to hear the PR. I want to hear the truth. I don't want to hear a sugar-coated version that's went through a PR department to make sure whatever word is spoken is correct so it makes them look better. I don't want that. I just want them to fix the issues and do the right thing. And if anybody doesn't think stopping someone from being your competitor by using your own photos is right, I'm shocked. You know, but anyway, let's go on and get some questions. Again, I don't want to just go on and rattle about this all night long. It's not going to be a super long show. I've been up early. I've been reading over laws in California over this. And again, lawyer-wise, emails, hours of conversation, hours of typing, hours of me conversing with other sellers that have the same issue with the same person, spending time looking through this guy's listing to see how many of my photos he's ripped off. And again, it's mostly all my high dollar stuff. So high dollar stuff may not sell very well when somebody can just get that one-of-a-kind image from somebody else for less than a 15th of the price. You know, I'm sorry, but this is just crazy. I talked to somebody, and I did have somebody actually come out, a lawyer, which I'm not in the mood. If you're a lawyer, please don't contact me. That's not what I'm interested in at this point. I'm not a vindictive person per se, but I don't like it when somebody takes advantage of every person on the platform who doesn't have money. Again, the policy says you have to use your own photos and your own text. Doesn't matter to eBay, that's fine. Competing against yourself. You can also have another issue, too, and this is brought up by somebody else that I've talked to. Again, I've been talking to a lot of people lately about this in the last 2 days. A lot of people, hundreds. And another issue, some buyers may see the same item from two different sellers and think that it's the same seller trying to pull a fast one, so they might not buy from that seller. Again, another reason why this could be hurtful to somebody. And as you know, if you've got a $100 postcard, $100 photo, $100 image or whatever you may have, and somebody else has that exact same image that's one of a kind for $10, who are you going to buy it from? Who's most people if they just want the image? So again, it undercuts people literally. It's stealing money from my pocket in that sense. Or a buyer, potential buyer, could see that you have the same item they saw somewhere else first and think you're stealing it and not buy from you because they think you're a con man or a thief. These are all honest things that people would think or logically think when you're looking. If you see several people selling the exact same looking image, what are you going to think? Would you still think about buying from them? Would you think that's a little fishy or maybe there's something going on with that? I personally would. You just like if somebody is conning somebody or you have an issue with the buyer, one of the first things you look at is like feedback and what else they're selling, and maybe they're trying to pull a fast one so they can keep the item and sell it in their store. There's all kinds of things like that that honestly happen. eBay is known about copyright infringement, just like with Amazon and the Vero program. It used to be a one-pager. If you look at the Vero program, way back when it was one page, it's massive. It's just massive. It's alphabetized with tons of people on every single letter of the alphabet. Again, these are people with money and the whole works. These are people who had the money to get copyrights and the whole works. If you're doing artwork on your own and you do the artwork and stuff, you can still put probably copyright on it, but all the person has to do is chop off your copyright notice and then repost that image. I know it says in there, too, that you're not allowed to remove copyright notices, but technically, the minute I write copyright and print something, it is copyrighted, even if I didn't go down and copyright it with the federal government. It's basically what the law says. But eBay, again, is saying without verified, again, the only thing eBay is showing is to qualify for the term verified is a copyright. Who's going to copyright every single thing with the Copyright Office? Because that all costs money. Technically, you are covered from the minute it is published, printed, done, and a copyright notice is written on it by the actual artist. My name's on it, my copyright's on it. We've got other names that I legally can use. We've got DBAs, so I use other names too. And it's all covered under our main copyright. So it's all in a group copyright notices for us. I have copyright stuff. So again, I do know, and I'm fairly familiar with how that works. I do a lot of public domain. As anybody who watches this channel knows, I do put public domain stuff on here. I actually had a takedown or a claim on one of my videos that's been up for a very long time from a rapper for a song that has a segment of the public domain video that I included in my video. Now, of course, he had to drop it at the end, and I did walk away keeping that, and he didn't get anything out of it. Because, again, it's public domain, and there's rules that you can use, as well as fair use. But we're literally just talking about use in general and rights. So, anyway, let's just pop back here. If you missed the conversation, I honestly recommend you going back to the front of the video. For those in Patreon, I have been answering I've been on home dealing with this. So I've answered mail all day long yesterday, all day long today throughout Patreon. So every single thing in there has been answered up until 20 minutes before the show started. I will be posting the video once I add some content to it, reposting it tomorrow, and I'll break it up into two because it'll be way too long to upload once I add the extra content. Again, as I said, I'll show you word for word. I'm going to have the document. You'll see the user agreement and how their definition of it is how they determine their definition of what those statements say, and you'll get to see them openly saying that, again, I'm not going to share anybody with eBay their names, but you'll get to see my physical emails and see what they're saying on this, to show you without a doubt that eBay is not going to do anything. Again, this is now 3 misinformations with 3 different people I talked on the phone call and hours of my time. It's just ridiculous. And you might think, well, why waste your time on it? Yeah, blah, blah, blah. Well, again, I could be losing a lot of money by people using my images and selling them. People are going to buy the copies for $10 versus mine for $200. Because it's the image most people want. It's the historians who buy those things. It's people that are like in a city historical club, historical society. They're using them and stuff. And they don't necessarily care whether it's used or not. They want the image. So if they don't have to spend $200 an image and they can spend $10, sure, why not? They just want the image. That's literally stealing money from us all, and it's condoned, basically. Again, they're not saying it is, but they're saying they're not going to enforce it at all. So that's a really one of those hairline things where I can't imagine legality-wise that could be allowed. But again, that's what's allowed. I'm sorry, let me grab something from over here. I normally don't walk off, but hang on, my throat is parched. Truly sorry to step off, not something I like to do. Okay, let's pop over back here. I'm getting down to the questions, I'm sorry. Hey, Daryl, how are you doing? I answered one of yours on there, too. And there's Dom. I did see Dom already. Good to have him in. Marty. Bob, how are you doing as well? Yeah, I noticed I had a few people in early. I was still setting it up when I saw the ticker start popping up there. The House of Mini Trucks. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. Post Road Photos. Good evening. Let me pop down here a little bit farther. Picking Northwest, how are you doing? Hey, Penny. Good evening, Penny. Nate, I'm sorry, my vision is like blurred today. I've had some eye issues going on from, again, a reselling incident. If you didn't know, I've had double vision in one eye since that incident. It's gotten better. The double images, I used to see like the street lights in that one eye were about this far apart. Now they're about that far apart. So it's gotten better, thank God. But again, I talked about an injury I had, and that's literally, it's related to getting something in my eye while I was reselling, and it's still not right. sad as that is. Don Traps, well, thank you very kindly for the super chat. I honestly and sincerely appreciate that. I never even think about it until one pops up. I owe you more than this after all I have learned. Well, thank you very kindly, Don. That's very, very gracious of you again. Thank you very kindly. Let me... Hang on. Okay. Again, thank you, Don. Where do we go down to? Okay, let's see. Larry Dykes, how are you doing this evening? Gail, how are you doing, Gail? Hi back. Dirt Road Picker, good evening. Got Craig, Landshark Picker in here, another fellow YouTuber. Very nice guy. I've talked to Craig several times, too. He's actually in one of my videos. So good evening there. Check him out if you haven't. Naomi Jones, how are you doing? Yeah, nuts. That is nuts, but that is true. I've got emails. I'm not the only one. There's another Patreon who is the one who pointed it out to me. I never have time to look at stuff like that, honestly. So I had no clue. I've caught people send me stuff all the time. I get all kinds of messages and comments and things. Somebody saw this, somebody heard that. I've never asked for any of that, so you don't ever have to send me anything at all ever like that. I don't care if somebody talks about me or whatever else. I don't care if any of that stuff. It doesn't matter to me. I got better things to do with my time. Again, the only reason this is being delved into because I fully am probably losing money to people like this, and so are many of you right now. So that's the only reason I'm digging into this. Again, maybe that's why my postcard hasn't sold. Maybe that's why the other postcards that he has copies of haven't sold. Maybe if you're selling vintage, maybe that's a big reason for all you know. Again, this one seller has 14,000 images that could very well have all come from somebody else. And I found a couple other ones that I am almost sure are the same thing. I haven't had any time to dig into them, but there's the same image from other sellers. You know, it's pretty obvious that something's going on. Anyway. Again, Marty's talking about watermarks. As I said, they banned watermarks. I knew that was going to come up, but they banned them. And I haven't brought that back up to eBay during this whole thing. I said, well, you guys banned watermarks. And again, we all know why they banned watermarks, so they could openly use our image without advertising a seller's name on that image. It's the only reason they banned them. Their excuse, and I can show you a copy from eBay's own statement, for why they wanted watermarks off was because it damaged the quality of the image so they wouldn't show up on a Google search. Now, mind you, watermarks show up just fine on a Google search, so obviously that was a false statement. They just didn't want to tell you that they wanted to be openly able to use your images. That's the bottom line. I don't know. They can say what they want, but I know for a fact, and in fact, when they did this, we did that. We looked. They were all over the place with watermarks on it. You will still see a few, but they have a built-in way to tell if you've altered the image with a watermark. Just to let you know. It's, in fact, I have it now. I don't have it here, but I actually printed off copies of them stating that as well, that that's what they do. So I looked into this. I looked back. I went back into historical site pages to see what was posted at those times as well, too. And there was a lot of angry eBay sellers when they got rid of watermarks, because these are people who make a living off of printing copies of photos they own, and they don't always, have the money or time or effort to copyright 1,000 different images, because that would be 1,000 different copyrights. Unless they publish them, you can't do that all together. It's very hard. I know technically once you take that photo, it's technically should be copyrighted, but again, that's not what's going on. So, again, very troublesome. Yeah, Naomi, it is shocking, as I said. Let's slide down just a little bit here. Again, my first response was, well, you guys blocked watermarks. And again, then I reading over everything. It all makes sense. It's also they can use our images and do what they want. It literally says in there they can use them as fully as they want, as far to the greatest extent of the law they can. They will use our content. So again, that does mean they could probably, well, I should say from what I was told from Legal Guy, that they can sell our images, because they have full rights to them now. So they could sell them to another user so he can print them. I don't see that happening. But then again, I didn't see the fact that they wouldn't take down images that were stolen from my page to begin with. But are you a collector? Good evening. Sherry, how are you doing? Yeah, and then people wonder why eBay has a bad name. This is why. And again, I can go through year after year after year. You can even still look on eBay's message boards right now and see all the stuff and all the complaints and all the things they've done year after 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 year. Again, eBay, the platform, is a good platform. In the year they did this, their profits were down like 90% at the time this was rolled out. Mind you, it was they were trying to do whatever they could. Again, we're spending time and money for eBay to use that time and money free of charge, so they can profit off of that. I'm dumbfounded that that's a thing. Just totally dumbfounded. Amazon, I don't see doing that because they've got enough money to have their own photos taken or to buy them or do anything they want. Again, I'm not trying to defend Amazon over eBay or anything because they're both monsters to an extent. The platforms are good. That's the only problem it is. And if every time I do a video or anybody else does a video like this, the biggest thing I hear is everybody, we should get together and get our own site. That's almost impossible at this point. eBay and these other companies got in when it was big. And I know Poshmark's making some ground and stuff, but there's going to be a day of reckoning for Poshmark and some of the return policies, as there is McCary, or however you want to pronounce it. Again, I'm sure I'm pronouncing it wrong. I don't really care at this point. But the point of it is all those type of things are going to fall in line with the leaders, just like eBay's now fallen in line. Even though they say they don't want to be Amazon, a product catalog, you can use photos. That's Amazon. eBay never had that until Amazon had it. Walmart has it. Target has it. They all have it now. So everybody's going to have it. And that's how big business in general rolls. If somebody else is successful on it, you're going to have a mimic channel, a mimic product, a mimic this, a mimic that is almost identical, but it's changed just enough to avoid a copyright infringement rule. And then they're going to market it in a different way and try and take some of that business. Videos. If I do a video on something and it gets a lot of views, the next day everybody else has a video on something. If somebody, not just me, but any channel, if somebody gets a big video, I don't do that. I don't watch other channels to see who's getting views. I don't care if it's my videos are like that or not, but that's just the same kind of principle that happens with everything. I'm not saying it's wrong to do videos because they're popular, because that means the topic's important, but I'm just saying that's the type of thing that happens, and then it's a snowball effect from there. So, Naomi Jones, so you couldn't sue them for copyright. I would have to be in the state. I would probably have to sue them in California for takedown, I would imagine. And then I would probably have to sue for each individual item. Just to open up a lawsuit, I'd have to probably get a lawyer. So you're talking, again, we're going to thousands of dollars for anything like that. Minimum, bare minimum. Bare minimum. And, of course, if eBay was to try and defend themselves, they got a million lawyers and all the money they could use for something like that. Again, the platform is good. I'm not telling people to do anything against the platform. The platform is good. It's the management and the policies that aren't, that are literally taking advantage of us. Again, I can't take it any other way by the comments and the total lack of knowledge from the first three people, including somebody from the department that's supposed to handle that. So they should have just told me on the phone, we don't do that. They should have known that. 3 different people didn't know that, but anyway. Amazon Seller 99, how are you doing? Can you do the DCMA again? That's the same basic principle. I don't have again, here's what it says. I have to have a verified rights owner. So I would have to, and again, eBay's rules say that they can do that, is what eBay's saying, even though I can't read that into them. They won't explain where it says word for word that that's allowed. They're not going to break it down. I even demanded an explanation of where it specifically says that other user can use it. Because even in the policy section they tell me to look at, it says you should use your own images. So again, it contradicts itself so many times in what they've sent me. For me to do the takedown, I would actually have to have every one of my photos tied to a copyrighted page one by one, and then all they would have to say from the way their lookings are here is that, well, I could have stolen that image from somebody else. I got to prove to them that I had the right to put that image up there in the first place, is the way their information states. So that kind of defeats the purpose, even if I have that. Now, if I had a takedown and there was another site besides eBay that took all my photos, I could do a takedown. I would just go through the provider, the person who actually supplies them the internet access, or their servers, or whatever the case may be, whatever company's doing that, and I could do it for that. But that would be from another site. I can't see a way to do it. They do have a statement on there over that and a link to connect it, but Again, they're saying they don't take down photos at all because, again, the user agreement says this. So it doesn't really matter if it's a DCMA or anything like that. They still aren't going to do it because I didn't apply with the verified copyright owner statement, which is, again, a copyright. So it's like they've built in loopholes. The person who is doing this as well is built in loopholes because he's not showing anything other than what they're actually getting, which is a photo. And just by looking at reading his wording in his responses, these nasty responses to all these people, these insulting responses to all these people, again, 50 of them on his account, he intentionally knows this and keeps saying it. If I had 50 people telling me that this is misleading, I would seriously look into why somebody was saying, because I wouldn't want to be dinged. But, again, this person's been on for 20 plus years, mind you. Maybe he makes more money for eBay than I do. I don't know. But again, he's not making it from doing much other than taking some images. That's scary. That's very scary to me. It's not right, and that's what's happening. But strictly anything, Kathy. How you doing, Kathy? I don't know if you saw that, but I gave you a real big long response on your email and Patreon. Just FYI. So, and I gave you some examples and some other things on there. So, just FYI, read through it. If you had any questions, just drop me a back line, Kathy. Okay. Marty. Yep, there are some in every item in the store. Yeah, you can send me that, but again, from the way it sounds, there's some sellers on eBay that have in their eBay name right next to it, you'll see like a membership icon for like numistical societies and things like that, coin collectors and stuff. They're allowed to have them because they were grandfathered on. I don't know if there's some grandfathered issues with some of the massive sellers. Of course, it does seem like there is different rules for different people because I can't get one of those marks, but yet these other sellers can. And I have seen watermarks on there, but it clearly states, and I brought it up word for word to eBay on several occasions this week in the last 2 days over this whole issue. And again, they're still not allowed. If they are, then, eBay itself doesn't even know that because I brought those issues up, just brought them up. And I can show you without a doubt that 2018, March 1st, they banned them. Again, because if you have watermarks on an image that eBay wants to use or promote or let another seller use, nobody's going to want to use an image with somebody else's watermark on it. So that's the only reason that eBay has forced us to remove watermarks. I can't speak on that, but yeah, go ahead and send me that, Marty. I'm just curious to bring that up because my guess is that person will be allowed, or there's some major big company and they've got some other lawyers or whatever the case may be, because that always seems to be the case, because the only ones that can file a Vero are big corporations who have lots of money. Of course, they're not going to say that, but you have to have lots of money to copyright every single thing you have up. It's impossible. So it's a whole roundabout way. It's like the seller himself has done everything trying to avoid any way he can get in trouble. eBay's tried to avoid any way that they can get in trouble for not enforcing, specific basic copyright laws. Again, opinion. This is my opinion here, but the evidence speaks for itself. Yeah, you could easily set up a drop shipping account. Of course, that was my thought on the same thing. You're not supposed to do that, supposedly, at least ripping off photos. eBay doesn't really have a problem, in my book, with drop shipping in general, even though they say they do. We know Amazon doesn't technically, even though they say they do, because there's so many of it still going on. That's the whole point, that you don't need any investment with eBay, that you don't need anything. You can just go take somebody's photos and eBay isn't going to do anything about it. So you can start a business. So for all those who don't have a business idea or don't have anything to sell, just do what this guy's doing. And on top of that, I think you can have your photos printed and then mailed to your house from Walmart. So you don't even have to leave the house. I can just sit here and take photos all day long off of eBay because it says, that they're not going to do anything to anybody unless somebody can prove with a copyright notice that they own them. Again, it's totally and utterly insane. It really is. Again, it's not going to stop me from doing eBay, but I'm not going to put certain things up there. For those who have followed my story, you might notice that as many things haven't been going up anymore. We've got alternate sources for some items now, and I'm not going to keep investing in it when the site supposedly is trying to fix things, but yet these massive issues. Again, this is massive in my book because it affects every seller who thinks they own their own images. Every seller on the site. So anyway, yeah, the drop shipping thing scares me because this makes it so easy for it. Yeah, Nate, go and look it up. Type in watermarks on eBay, March 1st, and you'll see that that's the day they were banned. I know, I see them too. No, I'm not, Daryl. Don't. I would never recommend doing that. I'm not. In fact, anytime I find that, the first thing I do is block that person. I'm not. I'm not going to go do that. I'm going to go the legal means to do it. In all honesty, that's just my opinion. Real deal McNeil, how are you doing? I've had photographers demand their vintage photos back that I had listed on eBay. I just take them off and sell them at local auctions. Yeah, I wouldn't do that, honestly. That's just me. I would never use anybody else's photos unless I have permission, honestly. Man Mountain Link, how are you doing? If you put your store name in an eBay image, because of the white background and because of Amazon's rules, you can't put those anywhere else. You can't cross list, you can't do anything because, again, it's not going to sync up if you use that anywhere else. And the other thing on that is if you put your store name in your listing, just like all those who put watermarks in it, they had to all remove them. They had a deadline. And what eBay did is if you didn't meet that deadline and watermarks were still in your listings, they weren't going to show your items. At any point, eBay could force you to remove those from your photos. So I would never do anything that you'd have to go back in and change at some future point. I learned that lesson when eBay did the watermarks. I said, never again will I ever put anything in my images. Again, you can't. You wouldn't want to do that just for that fact. You can put stuff around it, but again, like on Amazon, I use the Amazon standard, or I try to, for everything I sell these days. Amazon says that 85% of your image on Amazon has to be of the item. The other 15% that's not of the item can only be white. There is a few minor exceptions on that rule, but I'm very, very cognizant of that, and I always try and keep up with that aspect of it for my listings. I want to sell listings, and we do sell listings on many different platforms. So that's a no-go for most people that are bigger stores because, again, they do cross-list. My store name would never be the same on another site just because then people, if you want to hide your stuff or you're selling Amazon, for example, they'd already know who you are and they could ding your account or do stuff just to knock you down on another platform. So I never recommend using the same name on all platforms unless you don't mind the risk. That's just my opinion. Hey, Bob, how you doing, Bob? I did answer a couple of yours if I didn't say that already. Anybody wants but doesn't require white backgrounds to pictures. Maybe white is the wrong background for us to use until required. This way eBay won't want my widget picture in their catalog. Yeah, see, again, I want to keep them so I never have to take them again. I don't want to have to worry about the images. Not just me, but I would assume that would be the best bet for anybody if you ever want to advance your business off eBay. What happens if eBay's bought out by, and again, there was a rumor in like Wall Street Journal that what if Amazon bought eBay? So, Amazon could buy eBay. You never know. I heard they wanted to buy like CNN or something like that. I don't know if it's true. I read some articles on that. And I know Wall Street Journal, though, did have a article on that. So if Amazon buys it, where do you think the rules would go? So my personal opinion is have everything you can possibly do, like photos, as acceptable on other platforms as you can. Cover yourself, just like having copies of all your listings and all your photos and stuff like that. Don't put something that you would have to remove later. Again, all those folks are upset about the item specifics. This is something you have to add or change or do later, after the fact. The photos would be the same thing, but be even worse if you had to go ahead and take new photos. Or you had to come in there and digitally take out your own watermark. That would be, oh my gosh, that would be a long, drawn-out process for somebody like me. I probably have 100,000 photos up on one store alone, possibly. That's a lot of photos to all have watermarks in every one of those. And I understand the watermark philosophy because, again, I do artwork and stuff, and I do put copyrights on my own postcards and stuff. But again, all the guy would have to do is crop them down. I don't have a applied for copyright at the Copyright Office because I don't technically legally need one of those. I just have to put the copyright notice in. Minute I sell it and establish my company as a company, this all falls into place. Again, we've had a company, you know, a DBA, a full-fledged company in the state, registered in our state with DBAs under the main domain of that company. I've got different, basically there'd be divisions in our company. And I know other people do too. I'm sure Don probably has some similar structure. There's other YouTubers that may have as well too. I've got different things we do, and each one has a different, you know, department basically, or a different division. Are you a collector? Yeah, that would never happen because eBay, you know, wouldn't do anything. How am I going to collect it unless I know, I get your point. I'm not trying to be sarcastic to you, but I couldn't collect it. There's no way I could collect it. Another seller using my photos. eBay told me if I have a good photo, they will let other sellers use it. They even told me they want sellers to remove watermarks so others can. That's exactly what I said. And they lied to everybody back then and said, and I got a copy of the screenshot of eBay's word for word stating that it's because they won't show up in a Google search with the watermark on it. Again, that was a lie. That was obviously a lie because now they're telling us something totally different. Again, that's just terrible. With, like Annie said, isn't a different market though? It is a different market for part of them, but I can assure you without a doubt, I saw a lot of images. Probably twice a week, somebody asks me if they can buy a scan of an image. At least twice a week. A couple hundred times a year, somebody asks me that. Somebody just asked me that 2 days ago. Last week, somebody asked me that about a Madison Square Garden ticket. So I get stuff like that all the time. I always tell them I'm a publisher, and you do not have permission to use any of my images because we publish them as well. I say that to everybody. And I also say I enforce our rights. But of course, on eBay, you can't enforce your rights unless you have a specific copyright on each one of those in a written, you know, government document. Again, that's not how the regular copyright works in the real world. I can take someone to court and prove that that item was on the market and that they are copying it by date of release, date of printing, like with my postcards. I can prove where they were printed, when they were printed. I can show documentations on when those images were uploaded and digitally done here as well, because again, I keep copies of all that stuff. It's the only way to be safe. Hey, Steve, how are you doing this evening? Yeah, I always forget the like button. I always forget to say that. But if you're enjoying the conversation, please do hit the like button. I got quite a few people on today. Thanks again, Steve. Top Pro Picks. You may want to go back in and see if they're waiving them, but I literally asked eBay on the phone to 2 different people, and watermarks are still not allowed, and it does state that. And in fact, let me just open it up while we're sitting here and watermark rule and see what it says on here, because I'm sure that's, yeah, here's policy 2020. And again, it's because they want to be able to use our images, of course. You must go live with blah blah blah. Hang on, I'm trying to get to the exact statement here. I'm sure it says it in here somewhere. Watermarks of any type, including those used for ownership attributions. The following are not allowed: photos that don't accurately represent the item, placeholder images. Again, I see placeholder images all the time on eBay. Stock photos for used, damaged, or defective items. Photos with added borders, so you can't add a border onto a photo. Photos with added text, artwork, or marketing material. So that means putting your store name in your photo is against the rules too. You can't put anything in it. So again, as I said, that's added new. Last time I looked at it, it's been a while, that wasn't in there with the names and wording and stuff. So that basically means as well, you cannot put a ruler anymore in your listings. Again, because that would be a border. That would also be text as well and added stuff. Watermarks of any type, including those used for ownership attributions. Again, those are all what it is. So it's not allowed at all. And that's literally on, what's the policy? Picture policy on eBay. So if you type in picture policy, you will see that as well. And again, does it say that it's in here so they can use your pictures? It doesn't say that. So again, they're telling you these rules, but they're not telling you that it's so they can use your pictures on that page. Again, misleading in my personal opinion. So the answer to that question is no, you can't do that. I have seen a store use other stores' photos with their watermarks, and they don't care. Again, see, that's what I'm saying. eBay's not even taking them down when they know. Because, again, it says right here, even if they know, that's not something they do something about. They only take them down if you're in the Vero program and have the proper letter from the Copyright Office from what these say to me personally. Again, these are all emails from me. Each one of these is a separate one. Again, I'm fairly good on stuff like that. I've been to court for businesses when I worked there, when we terminate. I've had to go to unemployment and court and stuff like that when I've terminated people many times, as well as workman's comp. We did some lawsuits when I was a regional where I had to handle where people were using some of our merchandise. I had to do the legal aspects for radio announcements, TV commercials. I'm actually in a couple TV commercials, as is the wife and kids, in Meridian, Mississippi, believe it or not, for a restaurant I worked into. And it's on YouTube. Somebody has it on there. So one person now has found it and sent me a link to it. Just if you want to earn some bonus points in my mind, if you can find the photo or the video of me and the family on YouTube, I'll give you something. Let's see here. Your photo, yeah, we already did that too. Swamp Picker, how are you doing? Sarge and Red's Vintage Toys, welcome. Nathan King, this makes me want to sell resized photos of pictures that I have already sold. Again, it's a good market apparently, but it's not something I would actually do because of the feedback, unless you're doing quality images. And the other term is copyright, reproduction, reprint. The terms on those are all technically mean something different. So using them in one way technically would violate eBay's rules. So this guy is probably violating 3. But again, eBay's not going to enforce the rules they don't want to enforce, even though they put the rules out there. I wouldn't be surprised if eBay calls or something on this, and I don't really care at this point, because I can't see is this is right. Them letting somebody use my merchandise to compete against me. I can't see that. Yeah, again, I know how that states again, and I've brought those issues up with eBay. Doesn't matter. eBay said unless I have a verified copyrights owner or a verified rights owner, again, this is the copyright notice, and they even asking me. Then here's what they asked me about the photos, again, which I've told them many times were from estate. I bought them from the family. I've been given permission. I told them who I was, the estate, when I bought them. I got hundreds of photos from these folks. I would encourage you to reach out to the rights owner directly by visiting their website or FAQ page on how to report infringing items. This doesn't have anything to do with it because, again, I own the images. So they're directing me. This is just like I'm assuming a mimeograph form, not mimeograph, but you know what I mean, cut and paste form that they're sending me. So I don't even know if they even read my statement. I spent time and wrote up, hundreds of words. It was a whole 2 pages I wrote up just in the very first response. I wrote up a huge letter, and I, line by line, wrote out exactly what this guy's business model is. Literally, from start to finish. Take the photo from somebody, digitally chop it down to 4x6, send it over to Walmart, Walgreens, have them printed, pick up the prints, bring them home, throw them down, take a photo of that, and list that photo. You sell some more, you've already got the number down of which one you want to have reprinted, you just have more reprinted. You sell them today, you have them reprinted sooner, or, in the 1 hour, you just pay a few more cents, big whoop. It's just like cost-benefit analysis. A company does cost-benefit analysis. They'll determine, let's say that if they do this thing here, somebody might die, but cost-benefit analysis says that the loss and the lawsuit they would face from that death would be less than they would make from continuing to sell the items. That's a real thing. That's what big corporations actually do, even right this very second, and that's perfectly legal. So actually classes on how to do cost-benefit analysis. So anyway, we're going to let it go in just a minute here. Hang on, somebody said Etsy is the same. Yeah, I know Etsy. I've never had the issue on Etsy, and I've never really had the issue on here until this came up. Hang on, I just lost my spot. Yeah. You can't put a coin over it either. Somebody's got a coin. You can't put anything in your image as it says. You'd have to give the image away in the coin or in the listing, or the coin away in the listing. If you show it in the listing, it has to be included in the sale. And you don't want to. I'm selling a postcard and a coin. I don't, you know. Let me see here. I think I'm back to where I was. Yeah, again, Sarge, you can't copyright you can. I've got a trademark. I've got a trademark that I could use, literally a legal trademark, where no one could use my business name. I've got a couple of them actually, but I can't put it in the photo, you know, without risk of getting in trouble in the first place. Yeah, I know I could put that on there too, Annie. Yeah, thanks. That's why I said I usually put a name on it, but I would have to print out everything, and the copyright notice wouldn't be on eBay then. You know, or I'd have to come in and put it and say the copyright isn't on eBay. But that's just like having a watermark or text in my listing photo, which again eBay says you can't do. So you're pretty much screwed either way you go. There's just no way around it. The House of Mini Trucks. Yeah, he should have bought it, but he's not going to spend $200 to do it. Why would he? He can just go ahead and get a cheap copy sent out and make a bunch of money without doing that, because eBay's already said they're not going to take it down. This guy knows the rules. He's been on there for a long time. He looked into this before he started to do this type of business. You don't have almost 14,000 copies of something unless you know what you're doing and have done it for a while. Again, he's been on for 20 plus years, so... Yeah, I thought about the cease and desist, but nothing's going to come of that I can say. This guy was rude to people who bought from him. 50 people, basically, telling him it's your own fault for being stupid, basically. He even said some comments along that line, derogatory remarks about their stupidity for not reading the description. And I did read the description, and that's not, it's very vague in what you're getting. The first words are terms that would make any person in their right mind think it's something that it's not, just by looking at it. So... you know. Yeah, again, Nate can't use watermarks. Yeah, the watermark issue, though, too, again, they've grandfathered in those who have the membership icons next to their seller names. Those are grandfathered in. Maybe eBay grandfathered in, like, the PSA company and all these major companies. If it's a watermark, I bet you it's probably a corporation who has it, or somebody who's got a secondary account who is a corporation. I can't see any other way around it. It's telling you can't do it for every regular person. And again, if you report them for watermarks, I reported a neo-Nazi item that was brand new, blazoned with the swastika all over it and all that kind of stuff. It's been up for 2 weeks since, not a single thing. And it's not even from this country. And it's a banned item. It's still up there. Just like all those people selling live fireworks as firework wrappers, and they're not. Loud firework wrapper. You tell me what that is. And they're showing pictures of real fireworks. You know, and again, that's something that's against the law. Somebody else has pointed that out to me. I know there's been people that filed reports with the FTC, or not FTC, ATF over those, but they're still on eBay. Yeah, once they're gone, I don't pay attention to my photos either. I save a bunch of them in case I want to print them, but... Michelle sees no problem in using someone else's image. You don't have the rights or the copyright law to use those images, was why that's not proper. If I took the time to take a photo of myself, you're basically telling me that it's okay for you to use my photo of me to sell it or do anything you want, and that's just not how the law works. You cannot use someone else's photo if they own the rights to it. I don't care what eBay says. That's not how the tech... If I took it to court other than eBay and you use my photo, Michelle, I could have you in court and you would lose because I could prove that I own the right to that photo. It's not the way the copyright law works. I've done it before. I used to do Disney images, and I had to deal with Disney before when they had sent me a cease and desist and actually confiscated some of my images years ago, hand-colored watercolors. So I've dealt with copyright issues for a very long time. Hey, Crystal, how are you doing this evening? Hopefully you got your item in the mail. Yeah, I'm serious today. Yes, very serious today, Chris. Industrial Crow, when you see somebody use your photos, you're flattered. Well, that means you're competing against your own photo with somebody else. That's what that means. That means somebody else, if you took a darn good photo, that means somebody else might sell the item because of your photo and you won't get to sell it. If you're selling something that's rare or one of a kind and somebody else is mass producing it, you may not sell your image either. That's theft. That is seriously theft. If somebody sells 5 copies of one of my images that's a one of a kind, they're making $100 or $50 off of them. They stole my intellectual property. That's like you saying it's okay for somebody to rip off some singer's song track and just give it to anybody he wants or sell as many copies of it as he wants. You can't do that. That's the same exact principle. The same exact law follows both of those. So I know the art aspect again because I do artwork, so... Yeah, I've told many people, and I've been called. I don't know what I'm talking about. I've had some people tell me about hidden switches and all this other stuff. I just can't see it's happening at all. There's no information, evidence, or anything else to substantiate that eBay would ever be dinging you for not accepting an offer. Most of the time, when you counter or decline an offer, I'm selling the item for more the second time around. Than like 85% of the time. It would make no sense for eBay to stop you from making more money, which means they get more money. It just makes no sense. Sell better items. My items are better items. Let's see here. Yeah, I guess it's probably officially considered a rant. Real deal, McNeil. Not my intent, but... And I'm worked at Nabisco for 24 years. Thank for your pin. It is... Okay, I'm going to pass up that one. It's always nice to share. Yeah, it's not nice to share when they're making money off of your work. I pay somebody to take my photos. I pay somebody to scan my images. So not only do I own the rights to the images, I have money invested into them. So it's not like I'm just throwing up something in a half a second and it doesn't mean anything to me. It's time, it's money, it's effort. And the other person isn't doing any of that. They're just copy, paste, cut, Walgreens, Walmart. That's all they're doing. Let's see here. Yeah, I think you all know how I really feel. I don't know why they allow people to trade on eBay when they have over 50 negatives. It's half and half. It's half negative and half neutral, basically stating the same exact thing as the negatives. I leave negatives. I'm not going to. Yeah, they're not good prints. That's why they're getting bad feedback over it. Yeah, songwriters, same thing. That just means eBay's saying it's okay to take the words off there too. So if you write a song and trying to sell it on eBay, everybody's allowed to take it apparently. Well, they're not allowed to take it, but they're not going to take that down if they don't do anything about it. I do 600 DPI. I do better than a lot of people. So I don't know. Maybe you can blow my images up very well. I've copied my own image to upload it again so I didn't have to pull it out of a file. And it looks just fine. So it just depends. Some of the other people, you can tell the images of their photos aren't as good because I found, as I said, a third person who has images that he's selling right now that this person has as well. So, maybe I can get enough people together so we can go to the district attorney's office in that area and actually file something. I think you have to have so many people to actually build up enough to have a case, is what I was under the impression. We're going to cut it off here, not to be rude, but it's getting long, and I don't want to just be ranting. Tomorrow it's back to normal topic. I won't be happy about what's going on, and I'll still be dealing with it, but I'm not going to get into a big fiasco over it, of course. Hang on, my phone's going off the hook. Yeah, I got a whole bunch of stuff coming in. Like 12 offers, too. But anyway. So, I mean, it's not... It's frustrating, but anyway, let's just look at a couple more questions, and I'll end it off here. Yeah, Milk Cap, they are still using them. But again, you can see all kinds of stuff that are banned, not a lot on eBay that are up all the time. Black Americana. I can look right now and find hundreds of them up there, even though mine were flagged and taken down. Even though the ones that the first ones they took down were not derogatory in any way. They were vintage 1870s items that were actually promoting like doctorial people. They decided the image in their mind was not correct, of course, but or somebody flagged it. Doesn't matter. I took them all down either way, but people are still selling them left and right. Yeah, I know Etsy. Like, what's the Teespring? I have shirts and stuff down there. I've seen so many reports of people stealing shirt designs. Amazon, same thing, shirt designs. There's a ton of things that are shirts of things that the people making the shirts don't own the rights. And that's Etsy as well, too. We bought a shirt off of Etsy. It was Wilford Brimley for one of my kids. It was a diabetes shirt, if anybody knows what that is. It's a big thing with the kids, or I don't know. I shouldn't say kid. My son's an adult, and he has been, but just so habit of saying kids. And it's a ripoff, you know, obviously. I wanted the shirt, but still, and it didn't last, so I left bad feedback as well, but never do that again. But it's everywhere. It's everywhere. That's why so many people, like, if you're going to complain about Chinese competition, you got to feel the same way about people locally ripping off your stuff. You'd have a problem if a Chinese vendor was taking all your photos, or a Japanese or British vendor, or any vendor, if it's not, you know, entitled to it. So it's the same principle if it's here or elsewhere. It's just not something that should be allowed. It's crazy. Again, it didn't used to be allowed. I know I've had people taken down years back because they were using our stuff. But as soon as eBay figured they could get something out of it and build a product catalog, again, my opinion, they went ahead and said, screw the seller. They don't own their rights to their own photo. We're going to take it over from now on, and we're going to be able to sell that. That literally they can sell your photo. Not only can eBay use your photo, they can do whatever they want with it, meaning they can sell that. So you might see some image of yours showing up on advertising material or printed material that eBay wants to do, or pricing or anything. They can use it for anything they want from what their own statement says. So again, I don't want to rant anymore. It's gone on. I think everybody who's watched this should understand what the issues are here. If you've got, you know, photos or something, you're not selling something, maybe there's a reason you're not selling it. Maybe somebody else is undercutting you by using your image and selling a copy of it. It could be anything. It could be a menu. It could be anything that's paper and then can be printed. They can do that with now. You have a Titanic menu. You've got a Lusitania menu. All they got to do is print a copy of it. Boom, there it goes. They can sell it. $10 instead of your $300 one. They got a menu from some rare hotel or something, or hotel letterheads. Well, let's go ahead and print one off yours. They can just go ahead and sell it. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter at all. Even if it's your own photo, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. But anyway, I'm gonna let you all go. I've spent way too much time on this topic. I need to get back to business. I do apologize for kind of preoccupying it with this, but I seriously think that everybody should know this. Had even one seller I talked to known that this was the case, even just one that I talked to out of, I mean, a ton. I probably talked to more people in the last 2 days than I've talked to in months. Nobody knew it. Nobody. Now that's not common knowledge if nobody knows it. It's just not common knowledge. It's just not advertised. They're not. It's even the wording, as I said, is in my opinion written by eBay in a way that you might not get that same meaning out of their definition on what the rules are. So either way, it's troublesome in my mind. So just the way it goes, I guess. But I'm going to let y'all go. I do appreciate everybody coming on tonight. Back to normal content. I will have the video up for those patrons. You'll get to see the original stuff, and I'll probably have a copy of the emails. We'll go over just a real brief. I'm not going to do a double duty and talk all about this again, but the video shows the whole details. You can see the account, you can see the images, you can see my ink stains, you can see that there's no doubt that this is going on, and you get to see the statements from eBay that it's okay. So anyway, I will let you go. I do appreciate it. Thank you as well, Don, for the super chat, and we are off for tonight.